we're getting, obviously, these growing concerns from the international community about Israel not going too far. You've heard that from the United Nations. You've also heard that in extreme cases from other countries in the region. For example, Turkey's President Erdogan right now is saying Israel's response risks being tantamount to a massacre. I want to get the view of General David Perkins, a U.S. Army four-star general, retired right now. Lucky for us, a Fox News contributor. General, that notion that almost the world, or some in the world, particularly some in the Arab community, who are already saying Israel not only is to have blame for this or be an instigator for this entire attack, but now to its response to that attack. What do you make of that?
Well, that is the largest case of false logic that I've ever heard. And of course, the rest of the world sees it for where it is. The analogy I would use is if you had an arsonist break into a house, light the house on fire, and then when the fire department showed up and put the fire out, we start blaming the fire department for ruining the carpets because they're all soaked with water.
It's a very good point, but it is what it is. Now, and I stress, as you did too, General, this is not worldwide, but among neighbors in the region, I always try to read between their lines, and they've not exactly been effusive in support of Israel. There's been a lot of finger pointing and urging caution on the part of Israel. So this is a major land invasion if it ever comes to that. To address a region that has been the source of these attacks. How does Israel go about that, you think?
Well, we're at the point now where there just aren't that many options. I mean, this has been years in the building. Hamas would conduct a terrorist attack. Israel would respond by, taking out some key leaders, take out a command and control center, usually from the air. But because of the ferocity of this, the level of barbarism experience, the prime minister, rightly so, has said, well, he is going to destroy Hamas, destroy their ability to conduct another attack like this. And the reality in war is, from the air with precision strikes, you can punish people, but the only way you're going to destroy a capability is on the ground. You destroy people on the ground. And so they are just going to have to go in. It's very bloody. Urban warfare is very difficult. They will work very hard to minimize collateral damage, hence the warnings they have given civilians to move to the south. But there just aren't really many options left for Israel to destroy the ability of Hamas to repeat this.
What happens, I'm getting ahead of the diplomatic skis here, but for a reason, assuming Israel succeeds in eradicating this Hamas threat in Gaza. No guarantee, I grant you. And it doesn't want Hamas to have anything to do with that region, and it's had control of that region, since 2007. Who does? And what role does the United States play in that, if any?
Well, the United States is always engaged diplomatically all around the world, just as we are with this. And so I think we continue to work with many of the other friends in that part of the world, some who publicly are constrained by what they say, but privately, I think they see the same things very similar. In fact, as Mike was just saying in the segment before this, very interesting that as the Palestinian civilians are moving to the south, trying to get out via the Rafah border crossing, the Egyptians have closed that. So the Egyptians know what they're working with when it comes to Hamas, and they are justifiably concerned about terrorists coming into their country. So Israel is not the only country in that part of the world concerned with Hamas and their ability to export terrorism. Some are just more vocal about it.
General, we do know reports missiles fired at an Israeli army post in southeast Lebanon. And that always, reignites the fears of a widening war on multiple fronts. And what does Hezbollah do and with whose help and what is going on in Syria? I noticed this past week Israel was striking Syrian airports to deal with that. But it could widen out significantly. And I'm wondering what you fear of that, if that does materialize, and from where.
Yeah, so I would, my answer to that would be related back to the last question you gave me, which was what role does the United States play? I think, the movement of our carrier strike group in there, the movement of British forces down there, other Western militaries, there's no intent for the U.S. to get involved boots on the ground in Israel. What the U.S. is going to focus on is containing the conflict and crisis to get no larger than it is right now. And those are very strong messages to Hezbollah, to Iran, and quite honestly, any other opportunistic people, whether it be the Russians or Chinese getting involved behind the scenes. That's where the U.S. can be most useful, is keeping other people out of this and making sure that it doesn't spread to any other regional conflicts.
General Perkins, very good seeing you. Thank you, sir, for taking the time.
All right, Neil, have a good day.